Survivor story of Ken Levine. Today is Survivor Series Saturday. We are back with another story for our Survivor series. On certain Saturdays during the month, we will share stories from survivors or caregivers within the aortic community. Today we bring you a story about surviving trauma from having a congenital heart defect and multiple open heart surgeries from Ken Levine. Ken shares in his blog details of how he experienced and endured open heart surgery many years ago. Ken was treated for aortic stenosis and received an aortic valve at a very young age. However, his hospital experience is very much still in the forefront of his mind. My story begins when I was born in 1957. I am now 63, healthy, active and a survivor. I endured 3 open heart surgeries for an aortic stenosis that developed when I was 2 months old. My first surgery took place way back in 1969 when I was 11, another at 16, and my final one for the placement of a prosthetic aortic valve in 1976. Now, considering the astronomical advances made in cardiac surgery in the last 40 years, I wish to give the reader a glimpse of experiences with cardiac surgery 50 years ago. Back then, it is true dinosaurs were extinct. The equipment used in 1969 bears consideration. Cell phones? No. Home computers? Electronic equipment, lasers, stents, implants through the veins. What? Echocardiograms? Excuse me, call security. Every 6 months, from the time I was 3 years old until 16, I went through the following ritual. The EKG machines were as big as dining room tables. They were run by switches, lots of switches. Now when I was hooked up to the EKG they poured a cold tube of lubricant all over my chest and used 2 or 3 rubber bulbs, like small clown noses, which were squeezed to make a suction connection on my chest. To make connections to my wrists and ankles. I kid you not, but imagine those macho dog collars you put on dogs called Beast or Duke, the ones with half-inch spikes placed all around the neck. That is what my ankles and wrists wore and to which the electrodes were attached to. They in turn set in 1-inch leather straps. The cables to connect me to the EKG. Imagine going into the trunk of your car to retrieve starter cables to jump a disabled vehicle. 4 pounds of those cables were dropped gently on my chest, the ends placed in the electrodes, tightened, and I was ready to go. At 11 years old, all I could do was lie still. The last part of this process was the actual recording of my heartbeat. A long metal stylus, about 2 inches long, ticked as my heartbeat. The stylus released India ink as the paper rolled out from underneath the machine. When the process was complete, the technician had to roll up the 50 feet of paper, literally rolling it around her shoulder and elbow, like one roll up a garden hose. Now, I share this walk down memory lane for a few reasons. First, to humorously show how very far cardiac monitoring has come. Also, it serves as a segue to continue my survival story. Although my story has a happy conclusion, it is vital for me to share what happened to me when counseling was not available for survivors of open heart or other cardiac procedures. During the years of my open heart surgeries, no one, or so it seemed, ever thought about the emotional side of cardiac surgery. In 1969, the only counseling my parents and I were given was the simple fact that I had a 50/50 chance of survival. At this time, really, the surgeons could scrape some of the clogging material from my aortic valve. When I awoke from surgery, I was in an ICU, my head and arms strapped down, and I could not swallow. What was happening? No one told this 11-year-old what to expect after the surgery. All I could see were images of people in white gowns pass me by. When my parents showed up, I could see they were as petrified as me. Wires, tubes, and cables surrounded me, and I could hear behind me what I could only imagine was a panel for some nuclear submarine. My parents really did their best to assure me, they had no idea this is what they would walk into. I felt sad for them and started crying, but the only thing to come out were my tears. I remember writing on a piece of paper, "Why can't I talk?" They told me. I also wrote thirsty and my mom could only wet my lips. No one told them. No one told me. I was in the ICU for 5 days, then finally, brought up to my own room. My chest felt like 2 elephants were sitting there, but I understood why. Parents, bless them, they came every day mostly looking for doctors to tell them something, but they were there for me, looking after me. My scar started itching and the lotion was heaven. I will say I felt okay. Until one afternoon, while I was watching something on the black and white TV, this person walked in, no introductions, comes over and suddenly pulls out this 4-foot flexible rubber tube out of my stomach and leaves. I was in shock. I did not know it was there. I was too young to swear, but I felt misused, attacked. The next day, another person walked in and said, "I'm just going to remove a wire in your chest." Suddenly with a resounding zzz 3 pppp I feel a 5-foot soft wire unwinding from my heart. Yeah, he left, with no how you're feeling or here's what's going on. He just walked away from a kid who shivered in fear. I was there a month, came down with a respiratory illness, go figure, and in May, nervously got into the car and rode home, dazed, confused and wondering why I felt detached from the world. I did not know it then, but I was experiencing trauma, the beginning of depression, and the birth of severe panic disorder. I don't and will not go into the details of the next 2 surgeries, except to say the experiences were pretty much the same, very scary. The second operation left me with a valve that failed, and finally, in 1976, a prosthetic Yorkshire was sewn in, and it is still going strong after 42 years. It's cool to watch it on echocardiogram, in living color. Unfortunately for me, there was no therapy or counseling, no one saw any connection between 3 psychotic breakdown hospital stays, panic attacks that lasted hours, or 2 suicide attempts, and correlation to the trauma, PTSD, depression, and dissociation for 40 years. Until 2 years ago, however, when in 2018 I was yet again hospitalized for suicidal thoughts and severe agoraphobia. This time a psychiatrist looked at my past historical events and said, "You've had 3 open heart surgeries. Well, have you had any counseling for this?" I started crying, really crying, and the past 40 years of hell came flooding over me. Okay, here is the good conclusion and the call for families, patients, and children involved with any cardiac care to absolutely get counseling, or psychotherapy, to be heard. Through very intense and on-point therapy I received during my 4-month stay, I learned not to be afraid of my body. I practiced saying no when panic occurred. I learned how to be present, grounded, self-soothing, calm, and am still practicing the many skills needed to heal. It is a long road, but a road worth walking, one moment, one day at a time. I realize that counseling of many types are occurring these days, and I am so glad, and I guess I wish to express here how vital it is to speak up and politely demand counseling before, during, and after any cardiac experience. Look, any surgery to the heart is a life-changing event. I believe that the body knows what to do, how to heal. The body is an awesome machine. However, the brain, our emotional well-being, is what we need help with. It's literally asking the body, "What's happened to me?" Lots, my friend. Your body just came out of some incredible surgery, and even though it appears everything is going well, it's a traumatic experience. Everyone, adult, child, teen or elderly person, needs to learn to be at peace with the experience. My generation basically told me, "Okay, you had this heart thing, buck up and get back in the saddle." Not anymore. It is, dare I say, okay to feel violated, intruded upon, scared, depressed, freaked out. Any emotion is your own that must be shared. Children especially need to be involved. My 11-year-old self would have preferred to express myself and be helped by professionals, than to buck up and feel like a ghost for 40 years. I wish I could reach out to you all. Imagine a 3-month-old getting a new heart. That was a dream surgeons used to dream of, and yet, here we are. Then, I remember emailing through Mended Hearts an actual heart surgeon telling the community he was feeling depressed. You all now know my response. Medium white star: be the shining star in someone's life by submitting your story of survival or caring for someone with aortic disease. Red heart: we really want to know about the symptoms that were experienced and the process of diagnosis. We will be sharing this blog with Think Aorta US and use it as a tool to show emergency room physicians and first responders why it is so important to think about the aorta. Red heart: if you would be interested in sharing your story, complete the form.